Hi, I'm Sarah Noble, your host for the Modern Day Intuitive Podcast. For over 25 years, I've been on a spiritual journey, searching, learning, expanding, and growing. I've traveled the world, led by my heart, on a quest to know myself so that I can support others. This podcast was created from my deep desire to help you connect with your intuition and to inspire you to create a life where the impossible becomes possible and you live into your sacred dreams and desires. Thanks for being here and enjoy the show. Hello, my loves. Welcome to the show today. Today I have Darcie Warden with us, and Darcie is launching her coaching practice and is looking for guidance on how to bring her different passions together in support of others. And this reading is really beautiful and takes us on a journey where we look at the importance of ceremony and ritual as creative tools, how to follow your intuitive guidance, even if it makes no sense, bringing two things together that your mind says don't seem to go together, yet your heart feels they do, and how your business is an extension of you, yet your business also has its own soul. So Darcie is a certified life coach, health and wellness coach, yoga therapist, yoga instructor, and group fitness instructor. And she helps men and women in their midlife years navigate life transitions, renew their purpose, and tap into their wisdom so that they can build meaningful relationships, continue to grow, and feel strong in their bodies to live long and purpose-filled lives. Darcie and I spent a bit of time before we recorded the episode just really connecting about embodiment and how important it is to access the wisdom of the body, and that it's just so life-changing. So there are links in the show notes to check out Darcie and the amazing work she is doing in the world. Thank you, Darcie. And before we dive into the show, I would love to invite you to the call that I am holding on June 21st in honor of the solstice. And this call is about really deepening your manifestation process through the development of your intuition and using a process that I have used time and time again to manifest what I would love in my life. I would love, love, love to be with you to celebrate the solstice and all the magic that's available to us from the energy of that portal as we dive deep into everything that you would love. So, my loves, enjoy my reading with Darcie. Hi, Darcie. Welcome to the podcast. How can I help you today?
Hi, Sarah. I would love some help around getting grounded and feeling like I'm in the right path for how I'm working to launch my coaching business.
Okay, thank you. So when I close my eyes, I see an image of the sun coming through, and it has a very tribal feel to the sun. So like ancient practices and indigenous cultures, that sort of feeling that is coming through. How do you relate to that inside of your life and what you're currently creating?
Very powerful. You're already going to make me cry, but I'm available for that today. My son is biracial. Yeah, it's so beautiful. He is a beautiful human, and his family is beautiful. They are Koyukon Athabascan, so he's white and Koyukon Athabascan, and I was connected with them for 14 years and learned so much and loved so much and really became well acquainted with community and the power of connection and community and tradition and ceremony.
Thank you for sharing. Are you, we spoke a little bit briefly before the call, and you have your yoga practice and part of you, and then you're expanding into coaching and looking for the intersection points of these modalities. Am I getting that correctly?
Absolutely. You nailed it.
So how do you bring, like, I sense this part in you, right? And I just love that you are allowing all of the emotion to be here with us because it moves energy. Something new can happen when we allow ourselves to emote, to let something change, and to really be vulnerable and present with everything. So I see this community, this part of you, right, that we have brought into this conversation. How are you threading this into your business?
Mm. I'm beginning to thread it through my social media presence. I'm building community online and I'm really wanting to build intentional community in a kind of a smaller online space than where I am right now. It's very big, it's very open, and I want to kind of contain it a little and make that a really juicy, connected community.
How do you see, right? Because when you talked about them, they're the two separate pieces that you want to knit together. And I imagine you have thought about this quite a bit and you have some ideas, and yet there's still some confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about what you've already determined or decided for yourself.
Well, I've determined for myself that the connection to my body has been the answers to a lot of my questions in my search for who I am over the years. And creating a quiet space in my mind to drop into my body has provided access to insights and wisdom that's been really important for me. And I feel like because I know that and I know that work, that I can help people feel that as well. And I also know that action and trying things and making mistakes and kind of fumbling along is also a really important part of growth. And so I'm trying to, is this all making sense?
Yep, I'm following you.
Okay. So I'm trying to figure out how to really create that space for that embodied experience, which there's really not much talking and it's more feeling and dropping in, and then moving into a talking space so that we can turn these, whatever is learned in that moment, into a potential path or North Star or an action, whatever that might be for my client.
So help me understand why you see them as separate.
I feel like, and I can see it in my mind, right? I can see these two different phases. And I think that's where I'm bumping up against a barrier because they don't have to be. I think they can really be woven together. But I'm like, oh, why do I keep bumping up against that? I'm just like, oh, I think because they were two separate trainings, they were two separate certifications, neither one of them talked about each other. And I want them to not only talk about each other, I want them to live together. So I'm struggling a little bit.
So the word that's coming back around as you say that is ceremony.
Mm.
And ceremony changes things, right? We walk into ceremony with one set of beliefs and way of being, and we walk out of ceremony entirely changed, a new being. I see you creating ceremony that allows these ideas to be married inside you, to come together. There's the image of a tree where we only see the part of the tree that's above the ground. And yet there's so much of the tree underneath the ground, even behind me, right? Like the tree of life, where there's the same amount under as there is above. And it's really going into the subtle places, into the liminal space, and allowing yourself to merge them in an energetic way, in a place in your consciousness where right now your mind wants them to be separate because that's how you learned them and this is how you were certified. But your being, the essence of you, knows that they belong together. So it's stepping outside of our understood time and space to bring them together so that then you can bring that forward in the world.
Mm-hmm.
How does that land for you?
Yeah, I feel it. I feel like the inside, my insides are agreeing with you, right? Like there's energy around the yes.
Yeah. How I'm curious if there are other places in your life where you create the separation.
Hmm. I mean, the thing that first comes to me is probably in my relationships, with the men that I've dated in my life.
You want to tell me a little bit more about that?
I would say, I think why that's what comes to me is because I maintain a certain distance in order to maintain a level of protection, right? So if I don't get too close, then I can't get too hurt.
Just following that thread for you. What's the first relationship that you remember feeling this way?
Well, I think, in high school, I had my first real heartbreak. So that's the one that's coming to me. And I really threw myself into that one and believed in deep connection, and I still do. But of course, it was, my first love in high school, and it was devastating when we broke up. So I think there was a point there where I was like, I don't ever want to go through that again.
Yeah.
It
That
was pretty
first
brutal.
heartbreak is potently.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think the other thing that I remember from that time, and I see as a pattern in my younger years in my relationships, were neediness is what comes to mind, but very clingy, but not in a healthy, good way. It was, yeah. So there was a lot of confusion, distrust, push and pull type of stuff going on in my relationships in my younger years.
How was your relationship with your father?
I would say throughout my years of growing up, typical of a dad who had kids in the early 70s. He was the working man. He wasn't home very much. I saw him on the weekends. He helped me, clean up my bike. Um, but very supportive father in terms of the things that I was doing and the ways in which I wanted to explore the world. But distant, not an easy guy to have a deep connection with.
Yeah. So as I follow what you're saying, like this chasm that was sort of created inside you as a way to interact with love, with the world, with relationships that already men felt somewhat distant, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you dove so willingly and openly into your first romantic relationship, there was a distancing, there was an unavailability. And then here you are, these years later, looking to bring together work into the world that has these two parts. And they're on either side of this chasm is the way that I see them. And so the way for you to, the ceremony, right, to bring the energetic part. And yet there's work on the mental and emotional part that is allowing this part inside you to connect is the way that I see it, to come in and allow the fullness of you to really be available in your life. And then through you being more authentically yourself, right? Available for love, not separated this way, Then there is the unfolding of how your work looks, because it's an extension of you and your authenticity. It's not something you do, it's who you are.
Mm.
And by marrying, right, these parts inside you, then allows for you to have the architecture, the understanding of how to marry two things that don't seem to go together, but that you, for some reason in your heart, they do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that feels so big.
Explain to me. Big because.
Ah, I guess I think about the chasm and bringing my whole self together, I think is what really landed with me. How does that sound to you when I say that?
Bringing your whole self together.
Yeah.
Yes, I love the idea of the whole self. And it's reminding me that my daughter, when she was young, she would say, my whole self, I'm bringing my whole self. But, not what we're talking about, but it just stuck with me because it's so true that when we're young, we are whole. And as adults, we continue to be whole. We just forget and we cover up everything. And so the whole self actually is still inside, just waiting for us to uncover it. Like it never went away.
Mm-hmm.
It actually lives inside the chasm that we're talking about.
Mm.
And what I have learned is that our businesses are an extension of our life, our being, who we are. It's not separate, right? It's not a coincidence that this is the work that you are bringing to the world, that this is what you are called to share and to teach, and the way you want to love others in the world. It is from your direct experience.
Mm. That's so helpful. It's so helpful to hear. I mean, basically, that I am my business. It just makes it so different. I'm not building something separate from myself. I'm building me and what I do in the world.
Yeah. And what I'd love to add in there to differentiate is yes, it's you, and yes, it's not you, in the sense that your actual business, it has its own soul. It wants to be here just as much as you want it to be here. It was born from you, and it will grow because of you and only you, right? Like it's your desire to have this particular business. You chose it and it chose you.
Hmm.
And as you develop, it will develop. But I really love to remind us that it is still somewhat separate. Like it doesn't live in you. It's its own soul.
I love that. Yeah. Well, that makes sense because I feel like I'm birthing something almost all.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great sign that you are on the path, my love.
Yeah. Oh, this is really, really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anything else you would like to ask?
I don't think so.
What are you taking away from our call today? What medicine are you making with this conversation?
Yeah, there's a lot that I'm taking away, but the connection to community and people that I have, and recognizing that that is medicine for me, and bringing things together rather than continuing to see them as separate, and being playful with that and transparent about my playfulness and experimentation with this work I want to do. I want to invite people in to explore and discover and not necessarily know, because I don't know. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing I'm doing it in a way where it's like all good stuff is going to happen. We just don't quite know what it's going to be. So I'm just really holding that space, and ceremony and tradition is really coming up for me right now too.
Yeah, it feels like an important part of your business.
I think so.
It wants to be included. And I love that you don't know what's happening, because that's the place of miracles.
Yeah. And I feel that it's kind of scary for real, but it's definitely an exciting space.
Well, and both can exist, right? We can be afraid of it and be excited and not know and show up anyway. Like there's so many things that can happen. It doesn't have to be just one.
Yeah. Yes. There's yes, and right. Yeah.
Exactly. Does this feel like an okay place to land today, my love?
It really does. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today and making your personal and spiritual growth a priority in your life. To learn more about connecting with your dreams and your intuition so that you can create a life full of possibilities, visit me at www.sarahnoble.com and see how we can create magic together. A big thank you from my heart to yours for making the planet a better place for us all.